Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everybody. I'm really excited to talk about AI, but really honestly, I'm really excited to talk to a group of people who care as much about mobile apps and mobile app development as I do. It's something that's a personal passion of mine. It's the reason why I work at a great company like Instabug. So it's great to see a collection of mobile app developers all in one place. I'm going to be discussing how AI is transforming how world-class mobile teams develop their mobile app, introduce a concept we call zero maintenance apps, and dive into how AI is evolving not just the way in which mobile development teams interact with apps, but the way in which users interact with apps. So without further ado, here's the agenda for today. I'm going to set some background. I'm going to introduce you a little bit to Instabug. I'm going to define a vision and a direction for where AI mobile observability is headed. I'm going to highlight some of Instabug's current capabilities in this regard, talk a little bit about where we're headed, recap, and then as Siki mentioned, we'll do Q&A at the end. Okay, let's kick things off. There has been a lot of hype and some fear about AI. I think we're more in the hype phase, to be honest. And what we're seeing is that in lots of different places, there are specific use cases where AI excels, particularly as it comes to development, whether that's building scaffolding like you might use in an AI code editor, or responding or analyzing large amounts of data like you might see in a customer support tool or in a user feedback analysis tool. The reality is that more and more code is going to be generated by AI. Just recently, Google held their Q3 earnings report and mentioned that 25% of all new code written at Google in the last quarter was written with AI. And so we're in the early stages of AI's involvement in the code development process. And I think it has particular impact on mobile. It comes down to efficiency. There are a whole lot of problems and struggles when it comes to mobile app development because the environment in which you're deploying your software is so varied. And it comes down to confidence in the fact that you're pushing the quality bar of your mobile app to where your customers are exceedingly expecting it to be. These transformations are going to take time, but we think it's important to establish a vision and make sure that the industry is pursuing a vision that focuses on what we think are going to be the most important problems that AI can solve first. I'm going to say something that's very obvious to all of you. Maintaining your mobile app is challenging, particularly the quality of your mobile app. It is increasingly challenging. I want to pause before I jump into why it's challenging, which is, like I said, going to be fairly obvious to most of you. But I want to double down on this word quality that I'm using because quality can mean a lot of things, and I want to make sure you understand what I mean when I say it. From Instabug's perspective, we've been around for a long time. We believe that the definition of quality of a mobile app has been evolving. Since the iPhone was invented in 2007, at the start, if you were in mobile app development, then you know that the most important quality metric was one of stability, like crash-free rates is the primary metric. And as soon as we started seeing more and more mobile apps, particularly when the apps were competing for the same user base, there was a lot of competition based on the quality of the app. You can think of the Lyft and Uber days where the two of them were fighting for market share, and one of the primary ways in which they were differentiating on that market share was the quality of their app. Did users enjoy their app? Did it not crash? Were they successfully able to book rides? Since then, if you fast forward, you all have experienced that more and more performance metrics are starting to be considered key indicators of a quality app. Whether that's, at the start, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, there was a lot of focus on app launch times and the impact of app launch times on users' perceptions of quality. Now we're talking about screen load times and specific network requests and specific flow times. All of this is not just because of the competition amongst mobile apps, but also because users' expectations of what a great mobile app are continuously set by the best mobile apps out there. You know this from using your phone. When you switch from one of the world's top apps to an app that you might not use as frequently, your perception of how that doesn't have tens of millions of monthly active users app your perception of how it should perform is that it should perform on par with the other app you just used. Your multitasking and switching between apps leads you to believe that all apps should perform at a same level. And so the user perception of what it means to be a quality app is continuing to evolve. The best mobile teams in the world don't just think about stability anymore. They think about a broad performance metric and performance expectations. And they're also thinking about other signals of quality that might be a little bit more signals of frustration rather than just a definitive deterministic behavior in the performance of an app. You add on top of this fact that the definition of quality continues to evolve, and the fact that you operate software across millions of different types of permutations of device, operating system, and like network configuration and state, it becomes very difficult to maintain a high quality bar. You all know this. You spend, from research that we have, 40% of your development time is spent on maintaining app quality. Traditional organizations have to respond to this in a very reactive way. They receive crash reports, they receive bug reports from users, they receive negative feedback from users or from leaders in their organization, and they react to it. What we think AI can do is substantially change that relationship to be a much more proactive management of app quality. It's a game changer because it can become more proactive. You can spot quality issues sooner. You can spot quality issues that you wouldn't have spotted deterministically. And you can, by spending less time, make sure that you're focused and your team's focus is less on the quality maintenance burden and more on delivering the things that we all as mobile developers love to deliver, which is innovative user experiences directly on their phones. I want to pause after that background about kind of the state of AI and the state of what mobile quality and the burden of mobile quality maintenance is, and give you a little bit of a word from the sponsor about Instabug. Instabug is a platform built specifically for mobile with AI built in. We cover a whole suite of product capabilities that I'll go through really briefly. But I just want to highlight that our platform is built to deliver on the promise that the world's largest and most advanced mobile teams deliver on, which is this very high bar of app quality. We think of mobile teams in various states of the kind of maturity of their focus on quality, and a lot of it depends on what signals they're able to get for app quality from their app and the tools that they use. But we're built to help teams advance that maturity to the state where, as I mentioned, the world's largest apps live. Our platform empowers teams to make proactive app maintenance a reality, identifying issues before they impact users, managing a quality bar across multiple teams where the assignment of those of the app might be spread across multiple teams. And in the end, what it delivers is a better quality app, better business results from that app, a smoother experience for not just your users, but also the developers, so that we're spending less time on the toil of app maintenance and more time delivering the innovative experiences I mentioned before. As I mentioned, Instabug is built for mobile exclusively. We focus on making sure that our SDK always supports the latest OS versions, cross-platform frameworks, declarative UI frameworks, for example. We're also release-centered. We focus on the timeline for a mobile app of improving quality is based on release, not based on time, because as you know, users can be on various released versions at various states of time. We are really focused on capturing this next wave of user-centered insights. I'll talk about some examples of those in a minute, but we capture types of frustrating experiences that no other tools do because we're so focused on mobile. We do all of this with an SDK that doesn't require any breadcrumbing throughout the app. And we're really focused on larger teams and the fact that oftentimes your mobile app is split amongst teams. Different experiences or screens are split amongst teams. And we give larger organizations the tools to triage, assign, and track the quality of specific portions of the app that might be assigned to those teams. I want to briefly go through some of the capabilities of Instabug. So we have a bug reporting tool that's used both in pre-production and production environments. It gives you really rich details to actually reproduce and debug the bugs that are being reported by your users, or a UAT or a beta test program, for example. We also have an AI feature called Auto Detect UI Issues that I'll jump into later. We have a crash reporting tool that captures not just standard crashes, but OOMs, ANRs, and a unique experience that we call frustrated user terminations, where a user closes your app and restarts it within 3 seconds. That's clearly a sign that something was frustrating, but it wasn't hung long enough to be an ANR, for example. We also include visual reproduction steps to really help you reproduce exactly what happened before the crash happened. And we have super intelligent crash grouping, best in breed crash grouping, to make sure that you and your team are focused on the right root causes of crashes rather than trying to triage things that maybe aren't really matched together. We have an APM performance monitoring tool. It really helps marry between stability and performance. It follows the AppDex model, where you can set thresholds for specific network requests or screen loads or the app launch, and then categorize whether or not the user's experience in each individual occurrence or instance was frustrating or not. And we give you rich debug tools to help you, including things like flame graphs and breakdown of the network requests and the payload, to really help you diagnose what's going on when you're trying to figure out a performance problem. We have a session replay tool that, again, categorizes the entirety of the user session into whether it was frustrating or not, and gives you highlights into the specific moments in that user session that were identified as frustrating. We help debug app ratings by capturing when a user is prompted to perform an app rating. We can connect a session automatically to that. So instead of just responding to your users asking for the logs, you can actually look up the user's session and figure out what happened before a user gave you a negative app rating review, for example, and actually be able to respond with something or debug it and make sure that it doesn't happen again. And then lastly, we have a release management capability. So this allows mobile teams to control how they roll out through the stores based on quality signals. So maybe you want to prevent a rollout if one of your key flows has a drop off, or pause a rollout if your crash-free rate increases on that app version. All of these are something that we definitely heard from mobile teams was a very standard way of deploying. On top of our release management capabilities, we also have the ability to manage and connect to feature flags. As we know, more and more mobile teams are rolling out their software to users using feature flags. We do all of this with a whole bunch of integrations to your standard systems, whether that's Jira, ServiceNow, Slack, or Teams. And we also take pains to make sure that we integrate with your backend observability tool, so that you can have end-to-end observability across the entire experience of your users, including if that request went through a backend service. And we make sure that that handoff, the debugging handoff, is seamless by giving mobile development teams shortcut links to backend dashboards, so they can hand off to a backend team or go diagnose in a backend dashboard a specific transaction request that they might be debugging. Okay, so that's a little bit about Instabug. That was the word from our sponsor. Now let's get back to our AI vision. I want to start with a fundamental fact. You all, as developers, understand that AI's ability to write code is continuing to improve. You're probably using it in your IDEs and other editors today. You're probably using that, like most of us, for scaffolding work or understanding code that you didn't write. We believe that the first place where we'll see more automated usage of AI-generated code is in mobile, and is in mobile app quality specifically. And that's because the types of problems that you see in mobile app quality tend to be the types of problems that AI can diagnose quickly, and they tend to be the types of problems that have more standard resolutions. So our investment here in this vision of zero maintenance apps is not predicated just on the fact that we're a mobile specific company. We have made specific investments because we believe that AI can be transformational and will be transformational for mobile app development. Oftentimes, well, we expect before kind of broad-based app development. So yeah, we imagine a world where your mobile app and your mobile app quality platform practically improves and maintains quality by itself. You can imagine a tool that captures crashes, spots them, proposes pull requests, runs those pull requests through your standard tests, and if successful, pushes them to your production app via a controlled rollout, for example. This is the vision behind zero maintenance apps. And we believe that AI makes that possible, not just by fixing crashes in an automated fashion, but also by anticipating crashes, by building a more robust testing engine that typically for mobile teams is very hard to build and maintain, as well as catching those types of issues in pre-production environments through the spotting of issues in beta or in a UAT type testing environment. What this does for mobile teams is it reduces workload, it leads to happier users, it leads to faster time to market, and the key thing is it leads to more time for development organizations to focus on the most important thing that they can deliver for their business, which is great user experiences. So we really believe that every mobile developer we've ever met wants to spend their time building great experiences for their user that they can hold in the palm of their hand, and that too often we're spending a significant amount of our time fixing app quality issues rather than doing just that. Yeah, from a technical perspective, this can be both proactive issue identification and resolution. So we're going to talk about some features that Instabug has where we catch things that wouldn't normally be caught by both by human bug reporting tools or by traditional, let's call them deterministic SDKs. We believe that we can eliminate repetitive and time-consuming tasks, reducing the overhead so that developers can focus on what's most important for their apps. And we believe that the mobile development platform we've built integrates seamlessly with how developers perform this work today. And so it can enable technical organizations and leaders to reduce the amount of time we're spending on maintenance, make that more efficient, be more confident in the reliability and quality of their app when they're releasing it. And again, the core result is delivering a great experience for your mobile users. It has obvious business benefits, detecting issues, preventing those issues from detecting issues and resolving them quickly, preventing them from propagating to users for an extended period of time that can result in negative reviews of your app, which we know can doom many mobile apps, reducing the maintenance cost, being able to ship new capabilities to market faster and out-evolve your competitors, and delivering a great user experience. All of this leads to mobile teams have various final business results. Some are producing revenue, some are creating engagement, some are reducing engagement in other channels or forums. And we believe that with AI and zero maintenance apps, you can achieve all of those results faster at lower costs. I want to go over two of the features that are embedded in Instabug today. The first one is one we call Smart Resolve. So this is the AI smart agent for producing a pull request that will reduce or eliminate a crash that we've spotted. It goes through a kind of three-step process where we, and this is actually part of our Smart Resolve 1.0, was the first step of performing a root cause analysis based on the data that we have and suggesting the kind of general idea of a fix in words without having access to the app's code. This is actually something that we found to be a task that AI was fairly good at, because the number of crashes that can occur and the types of crashes that can occur on an app are fairly finite. And with the crash patterns that we can get from tens of thousands of occurrences of a crash, for example, we can easily spot the uniqueness that might be causing that crash to occur relative to the rest of the occurrences of an app happening, and develop a fix. I think the general purpose AI models are great at this, and we continue to fine tune them so that they're geared specifically for mobile apps, and the pipeline that we provide them to highlight the specific information that we're collecting from mobile apps has allowed us to get really robust results here. The next thing that we added, which was part of Smart Resolve 2.0, was generating the code fix. And be honest, the technical challenges here were our retrieval pipeline to make sure we're grabbing the right parts of the code. Mobile apps are complex. They're typically formed in one code base, and it's hard to make sure that you're grabbing the right functions and classes that would have been involved in the specific crash that you're seeing. But through a bunch of fine-tuning, we have developed a really robust pipeline that allows our retrieval to be very successful, and then again, our generation of a fix to be more successful. Then we create that pull request in your app repository and kick off the CI jobs that you have already set up to test that fix. As I mentioned, the benefits of this are similar to the benefits overall, that this reduces the mental overhead of a developer for having to think through all the things that I just mentioned, thinking through, looking for specific patterns, trying to reproduce the crash, looking through the asking AI, or looking through the internet, the Stack Overflow archives for this crash to see how others have confronted it, generating different fixes based on a knowledge about the code base that they might not be familiar with. It skips those steps to just start with, here's something we think is going to fix this. Do you agree? So it really reduces the amount of time that you are ending up having spent on this. And what we found is that the primary benefit that teams say, aha, this is great, is that it reduces the amount of time that they can go from, we spotted this crash, to it's now fixed. And every moment that a crash is out in the wild, especially with a review process from an app store, can end up having serious business impact. The next feature that I wanted to highlight is auto-detect UI issues. So we noticed that in our bug reporting users, there was a class of issues that were clearly present within mobile apps, but weren't being reported. Those were like UI issues. In this image, you can see like a miscropped image, or text misaligned, or like non-matching font styles. These can all be from minor tweaks or adjustments that were missed during the development process. And it turns out that if you're a UAT tester or a beta tester, you usually just skip over these. And these are the kinds of paper cut issues to a user's experience that can end up leading it to be overall dissatisfying. So what auto detection of UI issues does is it uses AI. AI is actually fairly good at spotting these this image has something wrong with it type of experiences, especially when trained on what traditional mobile apps look like. To report these, we report them as a separate class of issues, because they're not necessarily along the same class of an issue that a user-reported bug report would be. But it really helps, particularly in beta or UAT environments, for development teams to spot these early, make sure that they can fix these paper cuts before they ship them to the store. And like I mentioned, it frees up a lot of developer productivity, largely because it's a funny anecdote we almost always hear. These types of issues tend to get reported by somebody else in your company. You can think of like an executive or a CEO or a leader who spots them, and then the team has to respond because it feels very urgent. It really helps mobile teams stay ahead of those we call them paper cut issues, so that they're not interrupted and have to scramble to fix them outside of their regular workflow. So some key takeaways. So as I mentioned, we have a fundamental belief that automated code development and quality management is going to come to mobile first. We believe that AI can really help reduce what is a very high quality and maintenance burden for mobile app teams in particular. We're creating tools that enable mobile developers, as well as the teams to support them, like QA and product managers, to see the benefits of this vision. We believe it will reduce the costs and effort to maintain a high-quality app and allow you to pursue the innovation that's going to make a real business impact. And we believe that standing still isn't going to get anyone anywhere because the bar continues to rise. The bar for what a quality mobile app is never going to stop. And if you are standing still, not investing in how do we reduce the amount of effort we spend on mobile app maintenance, you're going to quickly fall behind. With that, that's the end of our webinar today. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I'm happy to take any questions or discuss the AI challenges that you and your teams are experiencing, and whether that's about Instabug specifically or about the industry in general. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Kenny. I see quite a few questions in our Q&A, but for the rest of the attendee, if you have any other question, feel free to raise your hand as well. I'll try to unmute you, and we can talk live. But first of all, let's get to some of the existing question while you were talking. First of all, from our first one is, how will code-based security be handled? Will any of these data be shared with the model for training purposes?
No, so the data is not shared with the model. We have, so the code-based security is the standard code-based security you would have if you share GitHub access with any other integration. So we use a standard GitHub integration to perform that access, and we are not sending the AI data to the model for training. We are using the code base for as the retrieval part to make sure we're able to generate a code fix, but not for training purposes.
Great. Has this crash resolution been implemented in any real-world application? If so, what percentage of these fixes were effective in resolving the issue?
So we have a handful of beta customers. I don't have data on what specific percentage of the fix is, but we do have a training benchmark that we're actually in the process of publishing ourselves, a mobile app, I guess like AI crash fix benchmark. And so we can share where our solution stands against those benchmarks, but really we hope that any other tool that's focused on fixing crashes publishes where they stand against the benchmarks.
Great. And we have a knock from Adobe, who's curious if Smart Resolve works with native crashes as well.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes. I don't remember seeing any NDK restrictions on our Smart Resolve because it can handle any type of crashes. But I think the question would be, yeah, if the Smart Resolve 1.0 could, because we would be able to give a general recommendation, but I don't, if the NDK crash came, yeah, I think the answer is yes, but Arnaud, let us get back to you and confirm that.
Okay, great. Another audience said, assuming we try different LLMs to generate code suggestion, any learning we can share in terms of what worked well and what not?
Yeah, this is going to be part of that benchmarking report. So yeah, there are a lot of lessons learned about our RAG pipeline and which specific models generated better fixes or not. I'm going to say our current one is Claude, but I think we've always been testing a handful of them, and we'll make sure to publish those with the benchmarking report. So great question. It has been like the time delta between our Smart Resolve 1.0 and 2.0 has been doing a lot of work around figuring out which models and which training regimes and RAG pipelines build the best results. And we plan to share all of this.
Great, yeah. And as someone leading our marketing effort, we will be revealing that report very soon. And everybody who's interested, please request from our team. I'm happy to share that with you all.
Yeah.
Next question, what security measures are taken when AI process the code base to provide fixed proposal?
Yeah, I think the real question is the code being used for any training purposes, and I answered that question. But other than that, it's like we have standard security protocols for transmitting the code to the AI models. But yeah, I think the primary question people are asking, I think the attendee was anonymous, is are we using this for training purposes? And we are not.
Great. Next question, is there a thought around UI validation of the app being done? Also when compared with some design like Figma or something similar?
Yeah, I love that question. I don't think so at the moment, but I love that idea. So just to clarify, I would assume this is about UI validation of the app against some standard. It'd be similar to like when you do UA tests against functional specs, you would have the same. It's a great idea. You could imagine like exporting a Figma file and running that through a CI job that also exercises the app and validates that the UI looks like the Figma file. And yeah, actually AI would be great at that. So I love the idea. I don't think we have not started working on that at all.
Great. We have a customer commenting. Thanks for the session for walking through the features. We've been using Instabug for a couple of years now, and it's been our primary tool for getting feedback from users. I want to know if we support configuration variables, or is there any plan to introduce in the future?
Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what configuration variables are, but first of all, thank you for being a customer. I love to hear that you're using it for getting feedback from users. The only thing that I might suggest is you can contact our support team with that specific question, and we can make sure we're getting you a direct answer. But configuration variables sounds a little bit like a concept we have called user attributes, where you can tag any user session with a specific set of attributes so that when you look at a bug report, for example, you could see, I don't know, you can think of it as like, is this a VIP customer or not? Or you could use that for something like configuration variables, which is kind of what was the state of the app when this user submitted the bug report. So you might just look in our docs for something called user attributes. But if that's not really the solution, please contact our support team and we can make sure we get it solved.
Great. What's the planned support of these new AI tools for Flutter apps? Flutter, Flutter, Flutter apps?
Yeah, yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, so right now it just supports native apps, but we're working on Flutter and we've been leading the way as a mobile SDK for Flutter and React Native support. So I expect that to be coming shortly.
Cool. What about encrypted builds? Will they require any additional handling?
I think there was one question before that, so let me answer the question before, which was any stats about the impact on app performance. So the thing that I want to highlight is Instabug is on, I think, 4 billion devices at this moment, and we spend a lot of our time, probably 30% of our engineering effort is spent on making sure that as a SDK that's meant to monitor your app's quality, we are not impacting your app's quality. So we take special pains to make sure that there is a low impact. Obviously, things like capturing a screenshot and then running that through visual UI issue detection. Some of that we can do on the back end, but we're hoping to build more models that are happening on the device so that there's less transmission of potentially personally identifiable information. But we're always going to keep the impact of our SDK on your app's quality in mind. We have one of the world's leading SDK quality SLAs as an SDK provider. And then, yeah, I think Abdullah asked the second question about encrypted builds. So as all of you know, like you do encrypt your builds when you submit them to the store. We have a process of de-encrypting them with DSIM files. So yeah, that is handled today. There's a process within Instabug already for you to upload DSIM files so that we can decrypt your app, particularly the like crash portion of it. Then we could match that in this smart resolve case to the code base that you were connected to from GitHub.
Okay. Can AI be linked with A/B testing to confirm solutions?
I'm not sure I completely understand that question. It can be, so we have a capability where you can kind of view the performance and quality impact of an A/B test or like a feature flag that you're rolling out. That's part of our feature flag management capability. So you can kind of see the quality difference between two different feature flags that you're rolling out and make a determination about whether or not you should continue. We could add AI to help you make that decision quickly. And you can even think about like automating the rollout of that feature flag as long as the B test is performing better on a quality perspective than the A test. So yes, that's not necessarily something that we showcased today or we're working on in the immediate.
Great. Was UI validation tool also trained on other type of language, left to right languages like Hubert and Arabic?
I don't think it was, but I wouldn't expect it to be too different, but I don't believe it was trained on those specifically.
Can this be trained on code base having proprietary architectures, which could be completely different from open source resources?
The word architecture there, like I hope it doesn't mean using like different NDKs or something like that. But yes, the architectures that you like, the thing that we would need is access to the code that like in a specific crash example that caused or was contributing to that crash so that we could suggest a solution. If some underlying modules or packages that aren't involved with the crash are proprietary or you wouldn't have access to or you wouldn't want to give us access to, it's difficult for us to suggest. But for all the places where it doesn't have to be open source, but if you're using, for example, a proprietary SDK and it was involved in a crash or a proprietary module that was involved in a crash, it would be hard for us to suggest a fix or harder for us to suggest fix, but we would still capture the crash and capture the frames that might not be able to be decrypted.
Okay, great. And everyone, for those who ask question, if we're not hitting what you want to get answer about, feel free to elaborate more while we move through the questions. Is this capability part of core product offering or is an add-on?
It's part of our core offering at the moment. It's in beta. But so yeah, if you sign up for our core offering, you can request access to the beta.
Great. I know it's very popular now. Does any personal user data or sensitive info like payment info captured by Instabug intentionally or unintentionally? How does information used or made sure to be compliant?
Yeah, so we have a very sophisticated, like I'll call it masking capability within our SDK. So you can turn screenshots on or off. You can mask all of a specific type of UI element or only specific ones on specific screens. You can interject and reformat the network request payload. We have all of these tools because we don't want anyone to send us sensitive information, payment or PII or otherwise. And so we have some defaults that we believe, 99% of the time, make sure that you're not doing that with us. It's kind of what we call our auto masking. But you can obviously override or underride that masking as you see fit using our SDK tools. So as I mentioned, like as an SDK that's on billions of devices, we have taken great pains to make sure that we give developers the tools to make sure that they're not transmitting PII or other sensitive information to us.
Great. Can developer modify code fixed suggested by Smart Resolve?
Yes, yeah. So in the pull request, you could add another commit to that pull request, for example, and further modify it. Or in like if you're in GitHub, you can add comments and make suggestions just like you normally would on top of that. The idea is that it generates the suggested fix, but then you as a development team go through your standard code review process to make sure it's up to your code standards and go successfully through your CI and make adjustments before merging.
Okay, we'll have 5 more minutes for question. If anybody have any last minute question while we have Kenny here, but I'll just give 1 or 2 more from other audience that I'm seeing. What platforms are supported by Smart Resolve? Is it both Android and iOS?
Yes, correct. Right now, it's the native platforms, Android and iOS. We're working quickly to add Flutter and React Native.
Okay. Does Smart Resolve require source code access?
Yes, yeah, as mentioned, it's right now through GitHub, and it's a kind of standard GitHub application. So it has all the security and authentication required of any GitHub application. And that is what allows us to generate a fix and then actually propose that fix as a pull request.
Okay. And can you explain, and you probably went over this in the presentation, but can you explain just in a nutshell, how does Smart Resolve generate code fixed and with the AI capability?
It generates the code by first assessing and kind of outlining a suggested root cause in kind of almost human terms. Then it pushes that suggested root cause in human terms and the specific code blocks that we believe are involved in the crash based on the frames that we're seeing from it to a LLM model that then generates the fix and then pushes that fix. Actually, I think it generates 3 different fixes and then makes a selection about which one is the best fix, then generates a pull request for that one, that best fix. As I mentioned, that the real smartness in this is in the pipeline that retrieves the right amount of code to make sure that we are able to generate a fix. And that's what we've been working on the last 3 months.
Great. Is there a recommended path to enable this to try in lower environment first?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable. The lower environment thing, particularly with crashes, you might not get enough occurrences. So if lower environment is like a beta environment with tens of thousands of users, that might be useful. Like all crash debugging and resolution, it helps to have more occurrences of a common crash. So the other thing I would say is like in a higher environment or in a production environment, it's not going to because we're pushing a pull request that you can choose to merge or not, it's not going to impact your production environment in any way. That the only concern would be, in the first place, if you were capturing a crash in your production environment, you'd want to make sure that you're taking all the safeguards to make sure you weren't sending personal identification, PII to Instabug. But as long as that's the case, I don't know if I would say definitely start in a lower environment. You can. But you're not going to get as many occurrences. It'll be difficult to validate that it's kind of able to, you're able to really take advantage of the capability.
Great.
I just saw the next question come in about both multi-repository. I think today you have to connect us to one specific repository, but we're working on the ability to add multiple repos. Right now, I think the question is like, is it assumed that everything is in one specific repo to go search for? And the answer today is yes, for the way our GitHub integration works. And then the second one is it possible to enable this for only a segment of users? You can enable Instabug crash reporting for only a segment of users. So our SDK enables you to control whether or not our crash reporter is listening and going to send crashes to our backend. There's probably a way where you could say, well, this crash only impacted a certain set of users, so I'm going to push the Smart Resolve button on only this crash. But otherwise, it's just taking all occurrences of the crash that have been reported to Instabug and suggesting a fix based on all of those occurrences.
All right, great. I think we've answered more than 20 questions today. Thanks, everyone.